Jimbo.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
It's Taco
Jerry Reynolds.
Tuesday!
Tuesday. What's up, y'all? How you doing? So happy to have Jerry Reynolds back with us this offseason on Tuesdays. It is a tradition and a staple around here. In fact, LeBron, it ain't Taco Tuesday anymore, my man. If you've been with us for any amount of time, you know it is
chicken and dumplings today.
Holy moly, Jimbo.
Chicken and dumplings. Yeah, you got to stick around to understand why. That's Jer's favorite dish. So a lot to talk about. The Kings finally make an announcement on a press conference 10 a.m. tomorrow with probably the lengthiest press release I have ever seen. We'll go over it. Today is Christmas morning for me. One of my favorite articles that comes out all season dropped. And what's really interesting and cool for us with content, but not so cool for the players, is an entire another article was created based off of one singular question. What it is it's the Athletics annual players poll. It's an anonymous poll asking best team in the NBA, best players, most overrated, worst franchise, best franchise, yada, yada, yada. But then the players were asked the question about gambling and involvement in the sport, in sponsorships. The overwhelming response from the players, their opinions were so strong that Sam and the team at The Athletic wrote an entire another article about players sounding off about the issues with gambling. So we're going to be going through that. Jerry Reynolds joins us at the 4 o'clock hour. Lots to get into. The LA Sheriff's Department investigating the DeMar DeRozan situation. So, that ambulance, that guy should be charged. He should be charged. A lot of people don't realize when you think about assault and battery, the assault part is not the physical part. The assault part, there goes. Look, Haunted Horse is already trying to take over the chat about my pasty skin, and he's going to go get that soundbite for his show, I'm sure. But the assault part occurs when you are in fear of being hit. That's where assault comes in. So if DeMar DeRozan has this phone show up in his face, was he possibly in fear? His reaction looked like it to me. Certainly wasn't satisfied. Charge that ambulance chaser, that clown, with assault. That's what I would do. Anyways, off my legal soapbox, let's get into it. Happy you're here. Grant's back tonight as well. He's been running his 8 o'clock shows. We also have an 8 o'clock show tomorrow night. Grant and I are going to team up after the press conference tomorrow morning. So we'll be back to summarize everything at 8. What do you think's going to drop? It feels like it's a bigger press conference. In fact, it feels like Scott Perry is going through presidential debate prep for this thing. Like, is somebody testing him, got him locked in a room, cameras rolling, asking him real questions, which likely won't be asked tomorrow. No, that he's going to get some hard questions. But will the coach shoe drop tomorrow? That will be interesting. So a lot to get to before the 4 o'clock hour when Jerry Reynolds joins us. Let's do it. Welcome in on a Chicken and Dumplings Tuesday here on the King's Court.
Late night lights on the screen, hey, it's Grant and Ryan. We bleed purple, talking hoops, never lying. Sacramento Kings, we rise and we fall. If you don't like that, then you don't know ball. Jerry sitting with the stories of the game, spilling all the truth, driving legends insane. From the Cow Palace days to Arco's roar, this town's heart beats on the hardwood floor. If you don't like that, turn away now. Kings in our blood, we
Nobody does it better.
Nobody does it better. You know who doesn't do it very well? By the way, still waiting on a response from Adam about this weekend. Is it a BYOC thing? Bring your own coffin to the American Airlines Arena. Let me know, Adam, because I'm sure I'm going to have to give Southwest some advance heads up, or maybe I can order one off Amazon. I don't know. We'll see. Nico Harrison did not have a good day. And you notice these exit interviews from around the league, usually the players right after the day after the season ends. We saw all the Kings come up. You didn't see any management because you didn't have management that was technically hired, right? Nico Harrison was asked if he deserves to keep his job. Check out his answer.
For you to be fired, that's an experience that none of us, no one's chanting for for us to lose our jobs. Why shouldn't you be fired?
Well, one, I think I've done a really good job here, and I don't think I can be judged by the injuries this year. You have to judge from.
This poor guy. I feel so bad for him. You can't throw that out there. I can't be judged by the injuries, considering you traded Luka. Oh my goodness.
Mentality from beginning to end, and so I think I have a really good working relationship with Patrick. I think you add in Rick. The leadership that we have is really elite, and you'll see next year when our team comes back, we're going to be competing for a championship.
Yeah, we'll see if they are. Scott Perry, as we said, officially announced. Wasn't lying to you, by the way. Look at that press release. Thing's massive. I don't remember the last time the Kings put out a press release that long. It's almost as long as Wes Wilcox's heartfelt goodbye to Sacramento. Here's what you need to know from the press release. Right here, 2 quotes. The first from Vivek Ranadive. Scott brings a wealth of experience, a sharp basketball mind, and a strong track record building talented rosters, said owner and chairman. I've never understood that. Why do you got to throw the chairman behind the owner? Isn't owner all encompassing? Anyways, Vivek Ranadive, he shares, quote, our commitment to developing and sustaining a winning culture. And I am excited to welcome him back to Sacramento. If you have been living on a different planet the last week, he was briefly here, Scott Perry, in 2017 for 3 months. Then he went to the Knicks. The Kings actually received some type of compensation. It was some type of pick. I forget what it was because he left while under contract. But go check out the Knicks record between 17 and 23 when his contract was not renewed. And there's a lot of ambiguity, a lot of murkiness around what exactly he did in New York. So that's what Vivek has to say. And here's what Scott has to say. I appreciate the opportunity to rejoin the Kings organization and help build a successful team that competes at a high level, said Perry. I'm eager to get to work with the players and the staff and to continue moving the organization forward. So there is what you need to know. Those are the 2 paragraphs that were most important from that press release. We're going to get to the athletic stories. That's kind of the top thing for me today, besides obviously Jerry Reynolds joining us at 4 o'clock. Blessed to have Jerry back for another season. It will be Tuesdays, 4 p.m. It's going to be Jerry's time slot going forward. Ash, he didn't get his grievances out yesterday. We might be able to get you a grievance. Apparently, John is wishing him a happy Festivus. Who wins in the feats of strength between you two? Never mind. I don't want to know. Haunted Horse, trolling as he always does, trying to be put in the penalty box before the show even starts. And Ash putting him in the place. Yes, Tristan, JR Tuesdays.
Maui Zimbabwe.
Indeed. What's up, Jeff? Thanks for being here. By the way, I want to clear the record here from yesterday's show. At the end of the show, Peter put in the chat something to the tune of Angeli representing the Kings at the draft lottery. He was saying it was a hypothetical. There was no truth to that. So you got my reaction to a hypothetical. So if that actually were to happen, my reaction's already on tape for y'all. Tristan, not sure what's up with that emoji. I don't understand why some of your emojis come through and some don't. And this one does. Interesting. Al is in the house. Yeah, okay. This guy, man, take your advice. Look, man, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens around me. Working on it to the best of my ability, my man. Excited for the press conference. What do you think the chances are that tomorrow you also find out that Doug is the coach of this team? Just curious. Throw a percentage out there. Tristan, you might want to take care of that. Interesting. I thought a salt can okay. What are you guys? You're taking the show just in different directions. Jeff, thank you. Getting us back on track. I hope somebody asks him about Zach LaVine's or the Zach LaVine comment tomorrow. Yeah, for sure. I don't think that there's a lot of weight into that because you can always, it's not like things change, players change, or players don't change, etc. He can easily change his opinion without being, held to the fire. In my opinion. Yeah, we'll get to some of these. Some of you have already gotten into the article. So we'll get to it in a second. What's up, Flores? Let's see. Pretty good record. Besides helping with the Knicks roster, has been doing anything else successful? I don't know what he's been doing since 23. To be quite honest with you, I have no idea. If you weren't here for it, Patrick came on the show. It was, I think, late last week. I think it was on Friday. Patrick's from Long Island. He's a Knicks fan. He's extremely dialed in. He gave us about a minute and a half on Scott Perry. Here's what Patrick had to say.
Okay. Number one, when Perry was brought over to the Knicks, it was right after they let go of Phil Jackson. And there was another guy running the team. His name was Steve Mills. He was sort of like the owner, Dolan. He was sort of like his flunky. And he ran the team, and Perry assisted him. And the biggest thing going on at that time was Porzingis. He was like insulted, and he didn't play for like the whole year. And I remember Perry and Mills sending the coach at the time, David Fisdale, over to Europe to try to get Porzingis to stay. Well, long story short, Porzingis never stayed. And eventually the Knicks let go of Steve Mills. So you think Perry would have been running the team at that time. He wasn't running the team. They brought in Leon Rose. And I think Leon Rose is more responsible for the Knicks turnaround than anything that Perry had to do with it. Now, I'm not there. I'm not in the owner's room or anything like that. But it's generally known that Leon Rose gets most of the credit for bringing in the players for the Knicks because he worked for a sports agency, and his son stayed with that agency, and they would get like a lot of players from like Kentucky and Villanova. to join the Knicks.
So that was Patrick on Scott Perry. Andrew, what's up? No. I think that applies more to Zach LaVine than anybody else, I would say. But Keegan and Keon, in fact, everybody needs to work on their handles. Everybody. But specifically, Keegan and Keon. You guys were asking me too about free agent point guards. So I started digging in. You know who's a free agent this offseason? Davion Mitchell. Can you believe that? We can't even fire a coach the right way. I don't trust anything the Kings do. Well, they've done the exact same thing, El Miguel, with how they've hired Perry. It's been incredible. And we'll ask Jerry about all of this as well. And that is why, that's why Domantas Sabonis says it's the craziest season he's been a part of. DeMar DeRozan saying the same thing. It's insanity. So, speaking of insanity, again, this is my Christmas time because I absolutely love when this article comes out. It is the Athletics, basically their player poll for the year. It's an anonymous player poll. So what you have on the left side is the anonymous player poll. What you have on the right side is the gambling poll. We're going to go over both of them. Why don't we get into the player poll first? So I always find this really interesting. It gives you a little bit of an inside beat to what the NBA guys are thinking. And I think that they get a pretty good sample size of not just, bench guys. I think they're talking to the guys that play. And we know the names that, thank you, he's a restricted free agent. Yeah, it was good audio. That's why I kept it. Patrick knows his stuff. I love when Patrick calls in to talk Knicks. Who is the MVP? SGA by a wide margin, 56.1%. Some of the different comments, SGA voters quote, "You've got to go with Shea. It's the number one team in the West, and he's been doing it way more impressive." And I'm kind of building that out because there's parentheses there. He's taken those young guys to the next level. You get some quotes there. Jokic voter. Here's one. If you look at the stats blindly and you compare the players, I think you would give Jokic the nod no matter what. I've never seen anybody make players on his team better when he's on the floor more than him. So there you go. There is your MVP question. Now, the question that I was talking to everybody about before this came out a couple weeks ago was the worst organization in the NBA. Where would the Kings end up on that list? Because I heard some whispers that the Kings definitely got some votes. They did. We'll find out where they finished here in a few minutes. Next question. Which team other than your own will win the title this season? 57.7% Boston, 17.5% Oklahoma City, Cleveland, 10.2%. Look at Golden State, 1.5%. Interesting. The Lakers, 6.6%. 137 votes casted. That percentage to me for Cleveland was high. It feels like a lot of the league and players are down on Cleveland, especially the second part of the season. People that voted for the Celtics, quote, "I personally think Boston will pull it out because they've been there and they're more experienced, but I think Cleveland is going to give them a run for their money for sure. They're really good." Voters who picked the Cavaliers, quote, "Just the way they move the ball, the way that they've got good players." I agree with that. I actually agree with that a lot. There is not a ton of wasted movement in Cleveland When you watch them play at their best, there just isn't. So as we move down the categories, if you're just joining us, Jerry Reynolds joining us at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock here on the channel. Now, this is an interesting... Oh, I skipped one. My bad. I went by one. My computer didn't catch up. Where are we at? No, did I not go by one? Let's see. We're doing this live here. Okay, well then we're just going to go to this one. Who's the league's most underrated player? Yeah, the one that I skipped. Who's going to be the face of the NBA in 5 years? 54.3%. Wemby. Anthony Edwards, 13.8%. SGA, 10.9. Tatum, 6.5. Can you believe? Here's the two that surprised me. Can you believe that Ja Morant got 2.2% of the votes? That's astounding to me. 2.2% of the votes. The only thing more astounding to me was Luka. Only got 2.9% of the votes. All right, most overrated player. I knew this would resonate here in Sacramento. 90 votes cast, 90 of them. Tyrese Halliburton, 14.4%. How's that hit you? Big deal? Do you care? Does it make you feel better about the trade? Are we going to rehash this thing? Oh, we're on set. Oh, okay. Why are my things? Okay, you know what? Ignore me. I'm going to start looking left because I have it open on 2 screens. We're going with this one. Who's the most underrated player? Cade Cunningham. Wins by a margin. Cade Cunningham. Is there any Kings on there? Derek White, obviously, up there. Towards the bottom, Franz Wagner. Okay, I see it. Nothing really that jumps off the page to me. Just these really good role guys. How about Austin Reeves? 3.7% of the vote there. All right, as we roll along now, we're going to get to the league's worst organization. Sacramento Kings, 8.8% of the vote. I think the Kings got off easy there. I thought it was going to be much higher than that. Charlotte, 38.1%. Washington, 20.4%. New Orleans, how about that? 11.5%. I wonder how that changes if they are not if they weren't ravaged by injuries. And by the way, yes, Sabonis was on the overrated list at 2.2% progressive. So take that into account. So anyways, we'll continue rolling through these as we go. Some surprising ones. Look at how many coaches here have won championships. Aside from your current coach, who is the worst coach? Brian Keefe. All right. Budenholzer. He's won a championship. Doc Rivers. Nick Nurse. Doug Christie, 4.1%. 4.1%. And how long did he coach? For a cup of coffee? 4.1%. Which player in the league would you least want to fight? James Johnson, Isaiah Stewart, Steven Adams. Yeah. So the list goes on and on. Go check out the article. I'm going to continue going through some of these as well. But the one that was really important to me is the question about gambling. The question about gambling, I don't know why we're not getting all of the polls coming up, but we are not. So we're going to go away from that right now, and we are going to go back to your comments. Then we'll get things straightened out as we go. Technology at its best. So, what do you guys think so far about some of these? I'm going to read some to you as opposed to trying to go back and forth on the screen. No, Rhino. I was saying that he's the most underrated, not overrated. And I know Progressive. I was responding by saying the players poll says 2.2% of them believe he's the most or overrated. How about that? Why are people hating on Jordy? I don't know. They forgot about Portland. No, Portland's done a decent job lately. Levine should have been on the overrated list. Sabonis is definitely number one most underrated. I don't think that's how it came in. Let's see how it came in. I'm going to go to my, yeah, he's a, so here's what surprised me. Let's actually talk about the overrated players really quick. Halliburton did not surprise me a lot. That, I get it. I get it. He's a different type of player. But how about Giannis being on that list? How about Joel Embiid being on that list? LeBron James on that list, 2.2%, same that Domantas Sabonis got. Zion Williamson. And then you also had this, 2.2%. No one who reached the NBA is overrated. So who is the league's most underrated player? Cade Cunningham, 8.8%. Progressive, I don't see. Yeah. Sabonis is not on the underrated list. Progressive. So how's that hit you? I agree with the Levine thing. I was not the source of these statistics. I question the validity of them all. I don't question the validity. It's a players poll. It's done by The Athletic. They do it every single year. I think the validity is spot on. Sabonis has to show up, play well in the playoffs. Yeah. And again, many biases go into these polls, especially with the anonymous aspect of it. Just my opinion. Okay. So here's what I wanted to get to. This is the meat and potatoes of it because Grant and I had a lengthy conversation on a post-game show about gambling and its effects on the game, and more specifically, the effects that gambling has had with players that are being harassed online. I mean, not saying the DeMar DeRozan thing was about gambling. That was just a crazed idiot that had no idea what he was doing. But you see it all the time on social. Jalen Brunson spoke up. I believe he put his name to it and said, we've had to do all this different security. And basically, where do the players fall on it? Because the NBA is making money like hand over fist. They're making so much money. They are printing it from these gambling partnerships. And I get that the players receive a set portion of the league's profits. I believe Grant put it right around 54%, according to the CBA. But here was the question. Are the NBA's gambling partnerships good or bad for the league, and why? There was 150 votes cast. 46% of them said it's bad. 34% said it's good. Somewhere in the middle, 12%, 8%, undecided. So the reason that it is polarizing for me is the players can't gamble. And I am not saying that players should be able to gamble. But if the NBA is bringing in as much money as they are from gambling sponsorships, whether it's FanDuel, whether it's Prize Picks, whether it's whatever. Hell, I believe, heck, Phoenix's arena allows you as a fan, they have a lounge there that allows you to go make bets during the game if you wanted to. So they did an entire separate article on the players' responses. I'm going to read you some of the responses from the players that said it's bad. Quote, "It blurs the line between intentions and purity of the game. And I just think, in my opinion, it's a little predatory the way they push it. You want to encourage gambling responsibly. Well, of course. They always do it responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.com if you have a problem with gambling. That's responsible, right? My hat feels crooked. Is that better? My hat doesn't feel right. Need to change hats. So I get that point. Quote, "Oh my God, look at all this money you can make." When in reality, the only reason why these things exist is because they make tons of money. Why do you think you can spend that money on advertising? They're realizing your money and throwing it back in your face. And so I think that the question alone, I think it's dangerous to have such close partnership. I get that it increases your own money, but it's a little unsettling to me. I get, most important part, I get 10 messages, DMs, a game saying, F you. I'm going to effing your family. Fill in the blank. Second one, quote, "The gambling partnerships are horrible for the league because you guys are selling your soul for the worst types of people in your fan base, and they don't see us as human beings anymore," which, again, they never did. But you're just going to start seeing more and more of, I hope not, you're going to see more and more people throwing games because of under the table deals. Here's another one, quote, "It's not great when you're banning players, understandably, for gambling, and then you're promoting it. It would be like telling us not to do cocaine and then giving the players cocaine in the locker room." Quote, "There is money in it, but I think it makes things really hard on the players." Quote, "They've turned the fans crazy. Some fans can go crazy with that." Quote, "Terrible. I think it's terrible because you can't see everything. There's a lot of inside work going on there that we don't see. Can you see the players do not like this? And understandably so. So where do you come out on this? They're going to gamble anyways. The league might as well make money off of it. Okay, let me ask you this, Honador. Seriously. And you know what? I'm not going to say anything that's between us, but I know what protections you put in place to make sure that if you're not going to be around, things are protected. I know that you have things in place that separate your life as a personality on air and your real life, your family, right? What if you're getting a zillion messages a night from kooks who bet on you to have a show that would go longer than an hour and a minute, and you went 59 minutes, and you're consistently seeing, "I'm going to come kill your family." Well, guess what? It only takes a Google search. If you have somebody's full name, to find out their address. More uncomfortable than that. Go on the California Unclaimed Property website and search anybody's name you want. If they have unclaimed property, you will find their address. I have had people find my address that way. So it's not a big jump that if you just bet way more than you could afford to lose, and you're sending threats, and we see stuff in the news all the day. We just saw some dude show up in DeMar DeRozan's face with a camera, with him having no idea that that guy got that close. And you saw his reaction. That's not a camera. That's a problem. I get it. The NBA needs to do more to protect its players. And don't tell me that the NBA just needs to tell the players to stay off of social media. That's not good enough, nor is it fair to the players. All right, I want to hear this guy's side of the argument. Let's bring him in. Remember, Jerry Reynolds calling in, or Jerry will be joining us here at 4 o'clock. Haunted Horse, what's up, dude?
What's up? NFL draft coming up, baby.
It is
Am I
indeed.
wearing the right hat? I am wearing the right hat. Make sure it wasn't the Giants hat. No, my point is this. Do I empathize with the players? Yes. But the gambling's going to happen. They were getting those threats before gambling was legal. Did you hear that?
Go ahead.
They were getting those threats before gambling was legal. There was underground gambling. It was happening. You had people making threats when someone missed a free throw that cost them a bet. It has been happening for decades. Now it's legal. There were sports books in Vegas for decades. So my point is this. They might not like it, but the NBA has decided, look, gambling is legal. There's a lot of money in it. We're going to embrace it. So my point is this. The players don't have to like it, but it's there. What do you want the NBA to do? Stop, having DraftKings commercials or whatever. Those commercials are getting you money. That's why they can pay your huge salaries. NFL's embraced it. The viewership is going through the roof in the NFL. And I'm telling you, it's partly because of gambling. I will pay attention to a game that I have no interest in because I made a bet on it. So it's here. If they want more security, hey, I'm all for it. The NBA can give more security if they need to make it safer, whatever. But to whine about gambling when it's lining your pockets as a player, I mean, I have no sympathy for that. That's what I'm saying.
Well, okay. So you're right that it's always gone on, but you're creating and I get that it's going to get created anyways. You're getting another generation of gamblers. In fact,
Right.
It's going to become as common as people having a beer at the ball game, right? It's going to be like that for the next
Right.
generation, my son's son, right?
Right.
But you have
your
to.
son.
It's
gonna be
probably my
soon-
son.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying don't take the money. What I'm saying is, if you're going to take the money, you either need to give the players a bigger cut of the gambling revenue that's coming in, ad revenue, not bet revenue, but ad revenue, or something needs to be put in place. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm going to read you another quote. Quote, terrible. Hate them. Every game, no matter what, if it's a good game or a bad game, you've got mother effers sending death threats, saying racist S. Every game, I guarantee you, if I check right now, I'll probably have something from this game. Every game, everywhere, DMs, Twitter, people be tripping, bro. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's going to come to a point where players are going to be targeted because we have lost so much money on them. That's what I think, but hopefully I'm wrong. He's not. I think whoever said that, they're right. We are going to, just like everybody says in the octagon, at some point, somebody's going to pass away. It's happened in boxing. You are going to have some idiot go out and do something, whether it's in an arena or they seek the person out. It will happen if we continue on this pace with gambling being everywhere with professional sports.
Yeah, but I guess my point is this. If look, and that would be tragic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it wouldn't be. But you don't need that excuse to go after anyone. We've had shootings since Columbine. I mean, people go after people for no reason now. I don't know that gambling adds that equation other than, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's senseless violence. Hollywood actors used to get stalked. It's a culture thing. When you have someone that is a not an icon, what's the word I'm looking for, a celebrity, there's been stalkers, there's been Hollywood actresses that have been killed by fans. So my point is, let's just say the NBA said we're not going to have anything to do with gambling like they do with pot. We're not going to embrace the gambling's still going to be there, is my point. It's not the NBA that's making it worse. It's the Supreme Court deemed it was up to the states and not the federal government to regulate where they're gambling. And that opened the Pandora's box of all the states saying, hey, we want a piece of gambling. New Jersey was first, and then the dominoes started falling. I can gamble in Oregon now. I can go in DraftKings. I can gamble on anything, not collegiate sports, but I can gamble on anything. And so my point is this: it's not going away. So if that's your number one complaint, that the NBA is embracing it, I don't know that has anything to do with it.
That's not my, no, that's not
Well, no,
my
I'm asking the
complaint.
players. The players seem to be, so what, I guess what, maybe I'm confused. Are
The players are
saying
the players are
NBA to embrace
saying
it?
the players are saying you are taking money to grow something that is becoming more and more threatening
Toxic.
to them. It is toxic to them off the court. It's a worry in the back of their heads, a bigger worry than if, like you said, if you're a player, you certainly probably have protections in place. And I know Grant said that, the NBA has security details that we don't know about and whatnot.
I'm
But
sure
players are probably now going to a different level privately to make sure that people, like some families, they've not allowed some players have not allowed their families to go to games because of stuff that has been said because of gambling.
right.
So it's just, if the NBA is going to embrace it, you're going to take the money, you're going to promote it. You understand that probably grows the base that also is going to harass these players. So you need to do something more to compensate these players.
Well, they are okay. So the NBA being involved in it has, in my opinion, nothing to do. I don't think it makes it worse. It's the states allowing gambling. If the NBA is not taking a penny, and people are making wagers on games or players, like FanDuel, I can pick this player to score more than this amount of points. And if he comes up short, I can theoretically get angry at the player. Whether the NBA is promoting it or not, it's going to happen because it's legal, is my point. So do you not get involved with FanDuels or whatever and take that revenue? I mean, that's fine, but it's not going to change. My point is this: if the players told the NBA, we don't want it, and let's just say the NBA said, we're not going to do it, that does not change anything. The players would have to go to the government and say, make it illegal. Now, to me, it sounds like a way to maneuver to get more money by saying there's a problem and we want a bigger cut. But they already are, because FanDuel and DraftKings and all those are paying for ads during NBA games, which makes the ratings go up, which makes TNT or whoever it is now, Prime, Amazon, pay more money to carry the games so they can run those ads. And am I right in saying that the players get a percentage? I forget what the percentage, 55? It's like more than 50, isn't it? Of what the ad revenue or the what the network pays to carry the product, right?
But I think what the players are saying is they have seen an increase in the amount of private hate, because there's always going to be those people out there.
I agree with them.
But they have seen an increase exponentially in the amount of private hate that they are getting. And I'm not talking for the players. I'm obviously not a player, but if I'm a player, it's probably bugging me that yes, I'm getting money for it, but you know what? I would rather not have those things. Like that cut of the money that I'm getting is not worth what I have to deal with on the back end. It's not worth what I have to think about every day when I go out with my family. Like it's that type of thing.
But my point is this, it has nothing to do with the NBA. It has everything to do with gambling becoming legal at the state level. The NBA didn't say, hey, we want to pass a bill that makes it legal. They have no say whether gambling happens or not.
I understand that, but if you are taking the money and promoting it, you are growing it.
I don't think that's growing. I don't think that's
How is that not
growing
growing it? That's the part that it's business 101. You're advertising. Why do you advertise? To grow whatever you're selling.
So when you say they're taking money to say, okay, go to DraftKings and bet on our games. So that's 100%. What you're saying. Okay.
Yes.
I okay.
Get a $500 special for signing up tonight.
If the NBA doesn't do that, let's just say the NBA doesn't do that. Do you think that no one's going to gamble on NBA games?
No.
Or the players think that? Because I don't think there's any difference. I think it's going to get worse because there are states now that it's illegal. Washington State. There are people that come over across the border because your phone to draft on DraftKings, you have to be in, you have to have your GPS turned on so they know you're in Oregon, and they make bets and then they go back home. So Washington State is going to legalize it soon. More states are going to legalize it. It's just going to get worse, but I don't think I don't see how it has any difference between that. I know what you're saying. Advertising grows it. I don't think that advertising grows gambling. I think it maybe steers people to DraftKings over FanDuel or over these, but I don't necessarily think that grows gambling. I think gambling is just one of those vices that a lot of people like alcohol, like cigarettes.
Well,
I think it grows on its own.
Okay, but here's the thing. I think it is a safe assumption to say that now that gambling has okay, let me ask it this way. Before gambling was legal, where you were at, did you have a bookie? Did you know a bookie?
I did not.
So you're new to the game because
I bought lottery tickets. I bought when we went to Vegas, I gambled down there, and sometimes I would put a forward bet on a team winning it all, 49ers winning a Super Bowl. But you're right. I didn't bet, but once again, I bet now because it became legal where I live.
Right.
Not because the NBA said, oh, we're going to make a deal with this. I don't even think they're on board with DraftKings. I don't know which one does FanDuel or which one. I play DraftKings simply because it's the only one that Oregon has partnered with. The state of Oregon partnered with them, and now I can bet on it. So it's an interesting topic. I guess my point, the way I heard it was, they are upset and they want gambling to go away, and I'm like,
no. They
just don't want partnered with gambling.
They don't want to deal with the increased BS that they have to deal with off the court because of it.
But I don't see how the NBA keeps that from happening. That's where that's where I'm having the block.
Okay, but
if the NBA didn't take a penny, it doesn't change anything.
Well, To a degree, yes and no. But if you are actively, it would be the NBA. Like if you take it to a legal basis, if the NBA, if the players are employees of a franchise and the franchises are part of the NBA, and you are taking revenue from something that you are promoting, they have a responsibility to make sure it's a safe. I guess what I'm getting to is you're going to have players, I think, coming out and saying this is not a safe work environment. This is not a safe life
Right.
environment. And they are going to be able to make the argument under the gambling. And you're right to a degree. You would always get those hate messages from somebody, but it's amplified. And I think it to the players, it's like is the uptick because they've clearly seen people that have been in the league before it was legal
Right.
and
Oh, I
now
have no
that
doubt. Yeah.
they've seen the difference. So I just think, and I'm not saying the NBA shouldn't take gambling money. All I'm saying is that the NBA is going to get a lot of pushback from the players about either giving them a larger cut of the money or putting programs in place to try to
Fair.
keep them safer. I don't know how to put it.
I thought,
You know,
yeah, okay. The way I thought they were trying to get a way to like get it out of. I mean,
no, you're never going to get it out. But if
Yeah.
you're taking the money for it and you're their corporate sponsors, the NBA
Right.
has named DraftKings and FanDuel as
Okay.
co-official betting partners.
Yeah.
So both companies will have expansive rights to integrate NBA assets throughout their sports betting and daily fantasy platforms.
Here's one where I'll meet you. I'll meet this subject halfway. There are talks, and I don't know if you were talking about this on your show where I talked about it somewhere where they have new arenas, and I believe it's the NBA, right? Where you're going to be able to make bets in the arena.
I just said that you could in Phoenix.
Okay. So I was grabbing my lunch and I probably missed
Yeah,
that comment.
you can
Okay,
do
so-
that in Phoenix. There,
so
I believe it's a
that-
FanDuel lounge.
That I could say okay. But that said, if I go to a Portland Trailblazers game, I can log onto my DraftKings and I can make live bets during the game.
Mhm.
And so I don't know that that's even being able to, it's the I guess it's the same thing except it's not being promoted by the arena itself. I'm on my phone and doing it, but anyway, I just don't see it changing. So that's why I'm like,
if you're promoting it and something were to happen to a player and it was tied back to a bet that was made through whichever entity is the sponsor,
it probably is going to happen.
It's gonna,
knowing the society we live in now, people are pretty
100%.
wound pretty tight. I mean, we had a CEO of a health insurance.
It's a
health
great
insurance
point right
company
there.
Get killed, and he got killed because of his job.
Yep, it's a great point right there. All right, I'm gonna let you. Thanks for making this better. You actually made the conversation better. All right, dude. Be well. Go check him out. He'll be doing his show here in a little bit. You're out of the penalty box, Horse. I'm gonna let you out. You're good. You are out of the penalty box officially. Jerry Reynolds joining us here in about 10 minutes. So get your questions ready for him. We've got a lot still to go over. Here's some of what the Kings are looking at. But first, reminding you, Grant back here at 8 o'clock tonight on the channel. Make sure you join him. Some of the offseason outlook for the Kings. Press conference tomorrow morning. Introducing Scott Perry. Sofa King says Vivek bet on the Mavs in the play-in. Hey, Sofa. I don't mean to come down on you, but I've been seeing some of your comments, man. I'd like having you here, or ma'am. I don't know if you're a girl or a guy, but you're going to get filtered out pretty quick if you're in here just trolling 24/7, and I will make sure it is filtered out. So just to heed the warning, my friend. If it's the same Sofa King, they're coming. HH, hang on. There you go. Thanks for there you go. Jeff, guys, remember when the refs conspired against the Kings in Game 6? Yeah, that was really just one of those blatant. There was no other way, no other lens to look at that. You didn't know it at the time, you assumed it, but the elbow that Kobe threw at Mike, crazy. Lau chiming in, it should be legal. There are a lot of people who have gambling issues. All the ads promoting are a disservice. And the flip side of that is the ads are, lining the pocketbooks of these major sports. It is the thing. ESPN now has their own book. ESPN Bet, where you'll be watching an ESPN show and they're like, oh, right now we're offering a special. We'll tease the bet if you make the bet right now in the next 5 minutes. It's crazy. Progressive gambling, but sports gambling in a casino versus on your smartphone is way different, much easier to get more people hooked, promoting having them gamble from their phones. Yeah, it's 100%. It's more accessible. That's why I asked Horace, did you have a bookie before? That's how it was. You either went to a casino or you had a bookie. That was a lot to go through to make a bet. Now it's just right there at the tip of your fingers. Stockton Kings coach is better than Doug Christie. Not ready to say that quite yet. I think they're very different. Sample size a little bit smaller with Quentin Crawford, but very good nonetheless on that sample size. How many NFL players have had their homes burglarized this past season? A lot. Yeah, that's been a conspiracy that I believe the feds are investigating. Social media and sharing too much information, that should be private. Well, look, that's that gray area, right? Isn't that the easy answer? The easy answer is get off social media. Then you don't have to listen to these people. Well, okay, you know that if you're off social media and if you were on it, you'd probably be receiving a few of those messages. But many of these guys are on social media because of their other sponsorships. They have to tweet out once a week about whatever brand they're repping. So social media, in some sense, is a business tool for athletes. Now, that's where I think it becomes interesting. To me, that's where I think the NBA, whether it's directly or indirectly, they need to be able to put a filter between what the players are getting from these idiots that are losing, or the NBA needs to investigate. It needs to be some type of program that comes directly from the funding of the money that they get for the ads that is investigating these idiots making threats. So at least the players know the league realizes what they're promoting could be a problem, is a problem, is acknowledged as an addiction for many, but we're also putting this in place to protect our players so they don't have to deal with all of that. So it's a very interesting conversation, and I think it is a conversation that is going to become more and more talked about as the next couple years go along. Jerry Reynolds joining us here in just a couple of minutes. Looking forward to having him on. If you have any questions for Jerry, put them in the chat because we have a lot to cover. There is no doubt about that. Press conference tomorrow, introducing Scott Perry, contract agreement, 1% chance to keep their pick. It's actually 3.8% chance to keep the pick. And that would mean it would need to be in the top 4. So we've heard Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan both say that it has been this past season the craziest season of their careers. I have got to bring on my good friend and just great guy, all around basketball man. Love him to death. Jerry Reynolds, how the heck are you doing today, buddy?
Pretty good, buddy. And just enjoying the playoff season starting. A few good series, no question, and obviously Kings not a part of it.
Yes, exactly right. And I guess that's where I want to start with you. Sabonis, as I said it's been the craziest season of his career. DeMar DeRozan echoed those same sentiments. Jerry, you have worked in just about every capacity for this team. You covered the season closely with us. Where do you rank it in your memory of seasons?
Well, it wouldn't be I think honestly there's a couple that would rival it for sure. I mean,
Okay.
so much of it has to do with expectations. I mean, there's been seasons that's been screwier by far over the years, but I think the expectations in this season was so much higher, which makes it worse because I don't think anybody was expecting to be, a one and done play-in team, and go from 46 wins to 40. I mean, I think most of us felt the team would be better, and it wasn't record wise, it wasn't production wise, and of course trades and coach firings and all that even made it more of a kind of a screwed up season.
Yeah, definitely. And the way the Kings handled those firings, not the best. Even with this Scott Perry situation, Jerry, we start getting reports of it on Thursday, and now we're just getting the press conference tomorrow, 10 a.m.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's one of those things that has, certainly not, I don't know all the particulars, but
Sure.
boy, to just basically force a guy out or fire a guy out and then have his replacement in effect ready. I mean, I know on the King's Herald, one of the writers, I think Greg Wissinger, wrote made the headline, after a long, exhaustive search, the Kings selected their next general manager. And I mean, I think myself, like a lot of fans, were thinking, well, if they change GMs, you'd think, well, they'll go through a real process. There's no rush that I know of. There's not much happening here in the next few weeks. But clearly that didn't happen. And I guess we shouldn't even be surprised that things were handled in this manner.
I agree. We decided to make sure that you felt very much at home now that you're going to be back with us on Tuesdays. So we now have our Jerry Reynolds chicken and dumplings drop.
Chicken and dumplings today.
Holy moly, Zimbabwe.
Well, that makes me feel very good because me and Mrs. Reynolds are going to go out about 5:30, and that is what I will have.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah. So
love it.
That's my treat for today.
Love it. We've got some questions for you, and I certainly have some questions as well. Tristan is asking, with your experience over the years, what qualities do you think are most important to a GM to building sustainable success? And does Perry check those boxes?
I will say that I think Scott Perry's a very good basketball man. I've known him for years. He did a lot of scouting in the earlier years as a younger guy. He's been on a lot of different staffs, different titles, whether it's been assistant GM. And I don't, the only thing I'd say that he hasn't really been the the final decision maker. He's always had a basketball president or someone ahead of him, on top of him. So this would be, but I don't know that that's any different this year. I mean, but I mean, I think he's a good basketball man. Now, does he have the ability to select talent and have a good idea of how to contact people, make trade? Yeah, I think he does. I mean, the question is, will he be allowed to make the decisions he feels in best interest for the team? That's
Right.
what we don't know. And I think, in the past, obviously, when you fire a guy that was executive of the year a couple of seasons ago, you'd have to say, is Scott Perry better than Monte McNair? Well, he's never been executive of the year. So, I mean, there is that. So,
Yeah.
and I
yeah.
think Monte is a good basketball man. I mean, I'll just say, my feeling would be, if you really wanted to turn the franchise around, the best way to do it, and I've said this before, so I'm just repeating something I've said on the King's Herald podcast that I do, is that why not go try to hire someone who has actually done it?
Agree.
Kevin Pritchard from Indiana. I mean, even a Presti from Oklahoma City, R.C. Buford, that's been part of turnarounds or very successful franchise. And people say, well, those guys wouldn't come. Well, you don't know. If you gave them enough money, and would they come just for money? Probably not. They would come for guarantees of control of basketball operations. But then again, that's probably why they wouldn't be considered for the job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to make that guarantee. And maybe in some ways we undervalue Monte McNair being the executive of the year. Wow. Working under Vivek. That says a lot, Jared.
Well, it was one of those things where I think he and, Mike Brown, everything fit early on. I thought Domas and Fox and Monk, it was a kind of a, team that really did click, and they were so much fun to watch. They were healthy, everything went right for them. So we all, I mean, not only enjoyed them, but we were impressed how good they were, and we expected them to keep improving. And sadly, they went from 48 wins and a young team to 46 wins last year, and this year they're a 40-win team, and they're not a young team.
Yeah, they've completely flipped. It's an awesome
They've completely flipped and went the wrong way, not just record-wise, but really probably asset-wise and, just future-wise, because it to turn a team around again and get it heading in the right direction is probably going to be pretty difficult, because Scott Perry and the coaches, I mean, they've got, I'm not sure just exactly what all the assets they have, what return they can get if in fact they want to make moves.
Yeah, and there's an argument to be made that with the major assets outside of Keegan Murray, a Keon Ellis, which I don't consider major assets, but we're talking Levine, Sabonis, DeRozan, you might be taking a haircut on all three of those salaries if you look to move them, Jared.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I honestly, I think with Levine, I don't think you can move him. I mean, I think that, Chicago tried for 2 years, so it was the first chance they had to move him. And it certainly is plenty talented, but I think it was a case where there wasn't a lot of bidders for his services, and so that would probably still be the case. DeRozan, at his age, he certainly still can score the ball, but I think there again, there may be someone, but it'd probably be an established team that's looking for some guy to, to kind of probably be an off the bench scorer that can really provide a spark for a contending type team, which I think he could do on a short-term basis. But what would it bring you back? Well, it probably wouldn't bring you back a lottery pick, or it wouldn't bring you back,
right.
It'd probably bring you back maybe an unproven young player, which might be a good move. But there's that. And then the problem with trading Domas that I see is that, people say, well, if he's your best player, you're not going to win a championship. Well, I agree with that. But still, I know this for a fact. I mean, he's the best center in the history of the entire franchise. Going back to Cincinnati. followed in Kansas City. And Zach, you can't name a better center in the entire history of the franchise. So move him at your peril. Because trying to replace him, you may never be able to replace a play to get a play. Now you may get a different kind of player, but to actually get a player as complete as he is, even in with his flaws, which he has flaws, we know protecting the basket and things, but I mean overall, they like I say the Kings through Kansas City, Cincinnati Royals, Rochester Royals, they've never had as good a center as they currently have.
Yeah, there's some people right now that are listening like Rochester, Kansas City.
Yeah, no, I mean, sadly, I want to apologize to the fans. I'm old enough to remember all those teams. That's why I kind of, want to point out. It's like, yeah, you trade him, but trade him at your peril because, you trade him and then all of a sudden you're saying, oh, geez, we need a better center. It's like, well, you had one.
Yeah.
And the chances of getting, whether you think he's fourth or fifth best in the league or sixth best, really doesn't make any difference. Wherever you put him, to improve, you have to get somebody better.
Yeah, and he said it. I think Malik Monk said it as well. This team needs a point guard, so maybe we have not seen the best of Domas without that true point guard, Jared.
Well, we saw his game suffer once Fox was traded. I mean, I think that did hurt his game. His assists went down, his turnovers went up. He kept one thing about Domas, his rebounding remained steady, but he wasn't as good a player the second, after the trade. I thought he and Zach were getting a little better together, near the end. So there was some encouragement there. But I don't think there's any doubt if you had a quality point guard, or even how about a competent point guard?
Right.
I think Domas's game would certainly benefit. I mean, because with that and with Monk hurt, you didn't have anybody that could be effective in a high screen role. And he and Domas were very good in that area. So anyway, there's a lot of things to consider, but I guess what I'd say is, every player is tradable. I wouldn't say, if you can trade Domas and improve your team, fine. My point is be very careful, because there's a chance that not only wouldn't you improve your team, you'd hurt it long term.
Yeah, and Scott Perry will be getting paid the big bucks to hopefully have the autonomy to make those decisions. And along with GM comes coach. So Sac Kings 95. Jerry, who do you think the ideal coach should be next year?
Well, probably ideally, if maybe a 40-year-old Rick Adelman, I think would be real.
Throw the clock back.
Since that's not possible, I thought Doug did a good job under the circumstances. I thought, he was put in impossible circumstances almost. It's tough as an interim coach, number one, and then it's even tougher as an interim coach coaching a second type of team, which he had to do. I thought other than the play-in game, which was a real disappointment, not only for fans, but I thought Doug had to be very disappointed with that. That's the first, down the stretch of the season, I thought the team, beating Cleveland, Detroit looked like they were heading right, played very well against Denver and the Clippers. So I was totally surprised, but that was just a disgusting effort, to be honest. And so that, that stings with the coach as well. But other than that, it's like, well, there's guys out there, if they decide to go in a different direction. Taylor Jenkins is a guy I think was an excellent coach for Memphis for years. And now I guess they fell out of love with him. Looks like they might have made a mistake. That'd be my thinking. But obviously they're not going to hire Mike Malone back, who we know is an excellent coach.
You don't think Mike would want to come back? Spend some more time with Vivek?
You know, I know Mike a little bit. I don't believe he would. Just, I mean, I think financially he can wait for other circumstances. So
Yep.
I think that's probably what'll happen. You know, and the thing I'd say with Doug hiring, if Doug gets it back, I hope Doug would get to hire his own staff. And I think there's some really good assistant coaches that might be good on his staff, that, you know, guys that he knows that have been head coaches. I think, you know, a Terry Stotts comes to mind.
Great name.
Scott Brooks. I think Scotty Brooks has had a lot of success as a head coach, and certainly a California guy, and he's been an assistant coach for the Kings too, in fact. And you know, those are names that I think could really help a lot, to be honest. You know, because as a young coach, Doug, it's always good to have somebody that's kind of been there and done that.
Yeah, no doubt he can motivate. The X's and the O's seem to be the problem. Like you said, the play-in game, to my eyes, the only real adjustment I saw was Doug McDermott coming in the fourth quarter at about the 9:47 mark.
Yeah.
But I guess tomorrow, now it's not going to be an easy press conference for Scott Perry, but if I ask Jerry Reynolds to put his genie hat on and pull out his crystal ball, do you think we will know who the Kings coach is tomorrow?
Well, I think we might know. I don't know if it'll be announced.
Okay.
You know, I don't. My guess is they've got a pretty good idea what they want to do, but you know, whether they're going to feel comfortable saying it. And like I say, I know, you know, with Doug, I mean, I admit I'm biased toward Doug. I like him. I've known him a long time and have a lot of respect for him, and I've always thought he'd be a very good coach. So, you know, I'm leaning that way. I know a lot of fans aren't, but you know, I can't deny it. Sometimes you just pull for guys, and he's one of those guys I pull for.
I was pulling for you. I don't know if you're aware of this. When you called that game a couple of weeks ago, they showed the hug between you and Doug, and I was afraid that you were going to have some bruises afterwards, buddy.
Well, no, well, that's great. I mean, you know, like I say, I mean, it's, you know, we got, I knew him very well as a player, but during our broadcast years and things, we really got to spend a lot of time together. And I just always, and I was kind of trying to convince him at that time. I said, you know, I knew he wanted to coach, you know, and it's one of those things to where, yeah, but you know, the broadcast is more, you know, I said, yeah, but you can always do that. If you want to coach, you better coach and get it out of your system. And I've always said, through my 35, 40 years with the Kings, I said, there's only 3 players that I ever encouraged to coach. And that was Jim Less, who's outstanding college coach at
UC Davis, right?
UC Davis, and then Kara Lawson from the Monarchs, who's an outstanding coach for the Duke's women's team, and Doug. Now, other guys I suspected would coach or could coach, but these were 3 I just felt that they had the desire and the knowledge, and they would do whatever it took to get better. And certainly with Kara and Jimmy, they've proven it. I mean, Doug has more to prove.
Was there one common thing between all 3 of them? Was it communication with their teammates, pushing them? What was that stood out more than any of those things that you named?
You know, it's really, as much as anything besides love of the game, you know, really they love to play, love to compete.
Yeah.
You know, got everything out of their ability. You know, you know, it's like I say, they got everything that was there. And but I think it's, you know, I always remember in all cases that, you know, they wanted to talk basketball all the time. Whoa, what was that?
Oh, somebody sending me a text message.
Oh.
Technology these days.
Anyway, but they you know, all 3 really wanted to talk basketball, and they respectful, and they wanted to learn, get thoughts, you know, just a real hunger to learn more about the game from different points of view, especially coaching points of view. And so I thought those 3 more than probably any other players, you know, struck me that way, that, you know, and you have to have a real desire to learn, because coaching is different than playing, you know, significantly different. And so, you know, so anyway, that's just some thoughts. You know, time will tell if if in truth, whether Doug gets this job or another one, or at some point, I think he's going to be a very successful head coach.
Yep, and I think a lot of this fan base, just as you, would like to see him in that position. But the key is who you bring on, how do you balance? And if Doug has that hat on, knowing he's the motivator, get that X's and O's guy in there that can really kind of assist and let Doug do his thing, but also grow this thing out, whatever it's going to be under Scott Perry. Before you came on, we were having a discussion, and then we're going to get to some rapid fire questions from the chat. We were having a discussion about the Athletic, who came out with their annual player poll, where they asked them a number of questions. And one of the questions was about the league's sponsorships with gambling companies and how they feel about it. And the response was overwhelmingly negative, especially because of the things that the threats, the stuff they see via social media. And gambling's changed. It's now legalized. You coached when gambling wasn't legalized and social media wasn't around. And I'm wondering, just as you sit back and you look at that landscape changing, how do you compare it to the pressures that players felt back in the day sometimes from gamblers or interactions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, because we'd always have to spend some time with different, groups, talking about the dangers of gambling and go through take tests and all that stuff to basically, in effect, say we understood and wouldn't be involved and what kind of things to look for, that sort of thing. So it was always a concern to not be associated with any type of situation that could be tied into gambling. Now that was easy for me because I don't gamble on anything. Except I play the Super Lotto every week, couple dollars, and so far it's cost me a lot of money.
That ticket's coming.
But that's it. But that's I mean that's just a giveaway. But anyway, the gambling, I'm very much against it, to be honest with you. Too, there's enough ways to gamble for people. I mean, if serious gamblers, play poker, there's a lot of games of skill and all. But the idea of I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like it associated with sports because, as you said, there's too many ways of something going wrong, which we've seen a few little examples already in the league, and I think it's a real danger to the college game more than the pro game, even though we've seen it in the pro game, but I mean the college, I say officials in particular, because most of them are, they're school teachers, they officiate part-time, and so it wouldn't. For a gambler that wants to, maybe control a point spread or something, $10,000 to a guy teaching history in the elementary school, and he's just officiating on the side, and all he has to do is try to, you make half a dozen little a travel call here or 3 seconds there, and just to keep the game so that worries me. I mean, because I know as an official myself for a short time, and I used to officiate, of course, scrimmages, and I knew how easy it was to, if you wanted to screw a team, if you really wanted to, and I used to do that.
You used to do that, right? On purpose.
I used to screw the starting five, just to piss them off and kind of get a point across. But a lot of times they wouldn't even know it was being done to them, because you can, it's kind of like probably I always say with NFL football, you could probably call holding on every play. It's a matter of when you call it or how egregious it is, I guess.
You bring up a great point, because when you said college basketball and college sports, I immediately thought about the players. I didn't think about the officials. I'm thinking, well, NIL, now they can get paid legally, so maybe there's less of a threat of that. But Jerry, there's so many different college games going off on any given night. You're not going to hone in on, unless it's one of the big, showdowns or in the NCAA tournament. That would be very easy to happen.
And I mean, I always said, it'd be far easier for officials to control the point spread than it is a really good player, even.
Yeah.
and I mean, it'd be even more noticeable by a good player. I mean, somebody that's a 35-point scorer all of a sudden goes 3 for 22 or something, and really turns it over 5 times or 6 times in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's like, oh, really?
Yep. Well, these players that have gotten banned, the Raptors player, Dejounte Murray,
Yeah,
not Murray, Porter, excuse me, not
Porter,
Murray.
yeah.
What an idiot. Why do you put, first off, you're gambling on your own sport, but these prop bets, you put so much money on these exotic props that nobody else is touching. So it sticks out like a red thumb.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where they
Come
get in
on.
trouble, because obviously, if a gambler's bought somebody off, so to speak, all of a sudden, the legal officials, they can spot. Well, boy, there's a lot of money on this all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
Oh, that's a
would
weird
John
one.
take a limited sub all of a sudden? How many minutes he plays really be an important bet?
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm gonna rapid fire here with the audience questions. Jerry, what's a question you would ask to Scott Perry?
I would ask him just, obviously this is a job that he's accepted, and he understands some of the difficulties that's happened in the past. Is there anything that he feels he could do different to get this team headed in the right direction, and what would that be?
Okay, Andrew, should Keegan be dribbling less and shooting more?
He should be trying to attack the basket any way he can by shooting, dribbling. Actually, he's one of the least issue problems with dribbling. I'd say about everybody else should dribble less. Probably in Keegan's case, I think he is too quick to kind of blend into the background, a little bit like Harrison Barnes did. And of course, looking back, Harrison was a lot better player. Sometimes we gave him credit for. He was very unselfish to a fault, and I think that's what Keegan is to a time, unselfish to a fault.
Do you think this is kind of the year that the Kings really need to try to feature Keegan so you know what you have?
I do. I really would like to see if, Doug's the coach or whoever. I mean, I would like to see, honestly, a little more structure in the offense to get more, play calls for specific players to get, to involve them, to where you have a little more control of who's going to likely, you can't always control it. Defense can have a lot to do with it, but you can certainly dictate the scoring opportunities for certain guys. I mean, it's not a coincidence that Kawhi Leonard gets more scoring opportunities for the Clippers than most guys do.
Right.
That's part of their strategy. Or Jokic, the offense runs through Jokic because he's really good at getting everybody involved plus himself. So, there's things you can do, and I think the Kings would be wise to make sure that Keegan, got 5 or 6 shots every half.
Explain why that's so important. I've been trying to get that point across, but I want your take on it.
Well, I mean, you're really wanting the guy to be a really focal point on the defensive side of the ball, which he is. He really puts in a lot of effort, but if you want that, you've really got to, you've got to get him involved offensively. I mean, it's at some point the guy just doesn't feel like part of the team if he's not at least getting to touch the ball on some especially a good offensive player. Now, if you got a guy that's strict, I mean, I'd say Keon Ellis is probably a little different. Now, Keon is a very effective player, whether he gets a shot every 5-10 minutes or not. But Keegan really should be one of those guys that's getting a shot every five minutes or so and touching the ball probably a couple times every 5 minutes for sure.
Love it. Okay. I don't think there's enough chicken and dumplings in the world for this, but Jerry, at what point do you take over as head coach?
Yeah, I think once I turn 85, I'll really be ready. I think, yeah, you'd have an old fart struggling down there, not even, I'll be calling all timeouts in the first in the first quarter so I could go to the bathroom, you know. So
Hey, you did well in your last game, but I have not seen this fan base so fired up for a game
well,
than
it
that
was
one. You
well,
coming back.
it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed working with Kyle, and I'd gotten to know Kyle. I do a little weekly thing with he and Whitey on 1140,
Yeah.
and I'd gotten a comfort zone with Kyle, which really helped. And so, you know, and as you know, and the fans know, I mean, basketball, it's basketball. I don't keep up with it like I once did, but I do keep up with the Kings, and really the Nuggets were a team I followed a lot because of Michael Malone and David Adelman, and of course Jokic. I love watching, but you know, it's basketball, and you're just talking about what you're seeing. I try to, you know, keep it to action on the floor as much as possible. Try not to get into, you know, just making points and let the play-by-play guy control the game. I learned that from Grant, really, because Grant really was great play-by-play, and you know, it's my job to point out certain things as we went, not you know,
Sure.
not take away from his ability to control the game.
So was it your choice or Kyle's choice to have you do some of those reads, bumping back in from break?
Oh, that was Ro Das, the producer. Yeah, you know, and the guys in the truck, I always say the broadcast team, they wanted to jerk my chain to see if I'd mess up a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of nice because I've told many times, I said, because I called my wife after the game and I asked her, you know,
Uh-huh.
because just to see what she thought, because she'd definitely tell me, you know, and she said, actually, you did a lot better than I thought you would.
You did
and
great.
yeah, that's high praise, you know. And she said, yeah, we were concerned, me and your son, that you might just embarrass the family, but you didn't.
No,
I said,
you did
I said,
awesome.
well, that's I'm feeling good now.
You did awesome. It was funny. I have not talked to Drapes since he did the game with you, but I could tell Drapes was a little bit nervous. He was excited to be doing that game with you. That was a special moment for him as well.
Well, he's, you know, I think they're, you know, like I say, I think he did a nice job, and he's fun to be around, and that's a big part of it. I always say that, and my feeling is you want to focus on the game, but it's still entertainment. And I try to, you know, and that was, like I say, learned that from Grant. Really, you know, as long as there's live action and it's a close game, focus on the game. You
Yep.
can always tell stories or things when the team's behind 30 or up 30, but until then, and of course, the one thing I try to help Grant with, and even Kyle, same way, is that they always tend to get too excited in the first quarter. Somebody hit a 20-foot shot and you think they won the world championship. I said, if you're gonna get that excited on a guy making $20 million a year makes a 20-foot shot, you know, in the first quarter, I don't know what you're going to do in the fourth when it really counts.
Right.
You know, kind of graduate your enthusiasm, you know, for the meaningful shots.
Build it up like you had to build
Build it
up
up.
your enthusiasm for those concert reads with artists and bands that you'd never heard of.
That I had never heard of and had no intentions of. You couldn't pay me to go watch them or listen to them. So,
All right, one more question, and then I'm gonna have 5 questions for you, and we are out. Is Jerry a player's coach or a Pat Riley type?
well, I would say, you know, in college I was certainly more of a Pat Riley a little bit, but I think you have to be a little firmer and all that. But in the pros, I was definitely more of a player coach. I mean, I think I might have been a little bit harder edge if I'd have known that I had any real security.
Yeah.
But I mean, that really wasn't the case. You know, I mean, it was pretty clear that the players were more important than I was. And so, you know, you have to, you know, as an employee of anybody, and most of the fans, you know, as employees, you kind of know your circumstance. And so you try to figure out how to stay employed.
I'm not going to go down the side route, and I know that you will understand this from your days coaching college basketball. One of my very good friends, he is a coach on San Diego State staff with Dutch, who came up under Fish, who obviously coached for the Kings for a while, but their job isn't coaching anymore, Jerry. Their job's fundraising. They are
Yeah.
panhandlers trying to keep their teams together when they were hired to coach basketball. And it's crazy.
Sad, isn't it? It really is. I really am saddened by what's happened in the college game. I hope they get a grip on it. And, the transfer portal is out of control, where every college player is a free agent every year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality. And they go, a good player from Indiana State, he can make 100,000 more going to North Carolina State. Well, that's where he'll go.
Yep.
Or a small college coach, at Central Missouri State. Missouri sees University of Missouri says, "Oh boy, we could use him. We'll give, he's there getting $500 a year, and in addition to scholarship, we'll give him 25,000." So they get him. Every school's a development for the higher level schools.
Exactly right.
It's just like AAA baseball, or probably like baseball used to be, where you had Class D, C, B, A, and all of that. Because I've got friends coaching in the college division. They say, it's just useless for us. We'll get a player and develop him, and then he's pretty good. And as soon as he develops to where he could go bigger, he does.
Yeah, I was talking to him, and he said it's not sustainable. Just not even for probably another year or two. Something's going to have to change. So, all right, I know that you have chicken and dumplings coming up, so I'm going to give you 4 or 5. I'm going to give you 6 players from the Kings.
Okay.
And I want to see what you think the number one thing they should work on this summer is, what their priorities should be. Domantas Sabonis.
Just a little 15, 18-foot shot. Take it when it's there. Definitely think he needs to look for his own offense a little quicker. I would say that. And definitely try not to put the ball down any more than necessary around the basket. He gets at least one turnover a game by putting it down on the floor in a crowd. He's got to get away from that. And I would say one other thing: go ahead and look to shoot the 3 more.
Great.
You shoot it better than most of the guys that are shooting a lot of them. So shoot it.
Agree. Keegan Murray.
Be more aggressive. Look for your offense. You need to look for your own offense. Obviously, with this current roster, some of those guys aren't going to look for you. It's not that and I don't think it's necessarily that they're selfish. They're not very good playmakers. They're just not. They're more individual type players, and so you need to look for your own offense a lot more. And in his case, he really ought to try to figure out how to hit Domas and cut off. Hit and cut, hit and use the screen. In other words, he needs to use Domas like the guards do.
Love it. Keon Ellis.
Keon Ellis just he needs to be a better playmaker. He really just isn't a playmaker. Learn to play off the dribble, make plays. He's a terrific spot shooter, terrific defender, very unselfish. I love the guy, but he for his size, he's got to find a way to make plays a little better. I've always compared him a little bit, in fact, to Doug Christie, and that's one area where Doug was much better. I think there's some similarities in their games, but Doug could make plays.
Right.
He can make plays, and really that's what this team needs a lot more of.
Zach LaVine.
Learn to dribble.
Learn to dribble. You've been an all-star, but learn to dribble. I'm with you.
He's so good. He's good for 1 or 2 dribbles, but after that, it's just out of control, and he turns the ball over too much. I mean, be better with the ball, but more importantly, I think, is make sure you're working harder to get to your spots without the ball, and then be in a position to shoot it, with an escape dribble or one dribble or so. Just be more efficient. Because he's really good at that, but he doesn't seem to get himself in that position much. We see him catching the ball in areas where he has to take 2 or 3 dribbles just to get in shooting range. Well, that's defeating the purpose. You be able to catch the ball in shooting range when you catch it.
Amen. And the Kings as a team need to be better passers. The passing this year was just
Yeah,
poor, Jerry.
just poor. Yeah, and that's not a strength of Levine. I would say in his case where he could improve himself that way is not necessarily pass for assist, but just move the ball to open people, to get the ball moving, be more of a ball mover. And then, of course, defensively, just understand. And if I were coach, I'd say, nope, just Zach, you're a terrific athlete. You should be an outstanding defender. You're not. So figure out a way to get better because you there's no reason for you not to be better than average on defense with your athletic
Love it.
ability.
2 more. Devin Carter.
I think just there again, it'd be nice if he could be a little more of a playmaker. I saw it in college a little more, but this year was so different for him. But I love his aggressiveness. Be selective. You can't get in foul trouble every 5 minutes, but the aggressiveness there. Just figure out what you can and can't do. But again, try everything you need to do is try to make your teammates better, become more of a playmaker at your size. That will determine what your value is going forward in the league. If you're just a combo guard, okay, you can have a nice career, but you'll never be high value if you can't be a playmaker.
Love it. Last one, Malik Monk.
Malik, bless your heart. Quit trying to, don't feel like you have to make a play every time you touch the ball. You're a gifted guy. You're allowed to move it. You're allowed to cut, and certainly be more selective in your 3-point shooting. And there again, you have the ability to make plays. We've seen it, and so I think even if whether you're coming off as a 6-man or whatever, come in looking to make your teammates better and taking what the defense gives you. Because I'd say with Malik, you're so talented, you can come in and just take what the defense gives you, try to help your teammates, and you'll get 18 points because you're that good.
He is that good. I will spare DeMar DeRozan because he is going to be a Hall of Famer 5 years after he quits playing, with the caveat, keep your toe off the 3-point line, Jerry.
Oh, yeah, he cost himself, and really his 3-point shooting has improved tremendously, but so much of his hits are long too.
He's so committed to the mid-range that he puts his toe on the line.
Yeah. Well, I thought Mitch Richmond was the worst great shooter that I'd ever seen it with his toe on the line, but I think DeRozan is trying to take that title from him. So, yeah, I would say definitely, DeMar, you can actually get 6 inches back further, and the shot really isn't that much tougher.
Do you remember back in the days, I bet you do, coaching, telling players that's the worst shot in basketball?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it is. It's if you're going to shoot a 22-foot jump shot, it's worth 2 points. My gosh, I don't know what more you could do bad. It's just not a good shot. I always say that was in the older days. That was the idea. The better players would if you're really a great player like an Oscar Robertson or something. The idea was to get 10, 12-foot jump shots. And the great ones could get good shots. The West Robertsons, and certainly nobody took long jump shots because that was a sign of weakness.
Yeah, you can't get your spot. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the 3-point shot only became even limited into the middle 80s because it was a shot, to win a game, desperation, end of the shot clock type thing. They can't get a shot, so a guy will take a 3. But I like the game the way it is. We've talked before. I've always said, and I'll say it again, that the corner shot should be eliminated as a 3-point shot. It's too cheap. Yep. And I think the game would be better for it. You'd have, basically more inside play, more fast breaks to the basket as opposed to kicking it out to the corners. So I think it'd make for a better game, and you'd still have teams shooting 20, 25 threes a game, and I could live with that. I mean, I don't think I don't think we need 53s a
I'm
game.
with you, and they're gonna have to do something because shoe sizes continue to get bigger and bigger, and pretty soon you're not gonna be able to have your toe behind the line and
Yeah,
be in.
yeah, and down there in the corner, I mean, it's always once or
Yeah.
twice a game where guys
Yep.
step out trying to get, trying to get in there. There's just not much space. So there, I don't know. It would be interesting to know how many, what that cost teams over the course of a year, by guys turning down, maybe stepping in and taking an easy shot, but trying to get to the three and stepping out.
I
of
was
bounds.
talking to somebody on the team this year about their training, and he said that he treats it like the charge circle. You're catching the ball on your toes. You can't have your feet flat-footed. You got to be on your toes when you're in that corner. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, that is. I hadn't even thought about that, but it makes perfect sense. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for the time as always. We can't wait to have you back on Wednesday or on Tuesdays, excuse me. And it makes our week. Jerry Reynolds Tuesdays are what most of us look forward to. So we so appreciate you, buddy.
Well, it's fun for me, and certainly to be watching the playoffs, and certainly hope, and I do wish Scott the best. Like I say, I think he's in a very tough spot. The team currently is, and all the drama and soap opera around it. But hey, all we need is a miracle. That's all.
Just a miracle.
Just a miracle.
Just one. Just one. Well, you don't need any miracles. You've got chicken and dumplings here in about 45 minutes.
Now that's a miracle, right?
That's a miracle right there. Okay. You go enjoy, buddy. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and thanks again for the time, Jared.
All right. See you. Take care, guys.
The one and only Jerry Reynolds. That is the fastest segment of the week. It just flies by. I was trying to get in as many of your questions as I could and incorporate them into some of the things. If it was a question we kind of already hit on, then I'm sorry if I did not get it in, but we will be having Jerry's on Tuesdays here throughout the off season. Just simply the best. Incredible human being, incredible basketball mind. And he enjoys being here with all of you. So big thanks to him. And interesting what he said. I wanted to do the rapid fire with him to see what he thought would be the areas of improvement for each player. And I thought a lot of them were spot on. Malik Monk, I agree. Just don't try to be Superman. You've already got a little bit of that gene in you. You're not Superman, but you're good enough to let the game come to you. Ball handling, don't let it happen again. What did I do? What did I do, Paul? Oh, did I miss your question? I must have missed Paul's question. My bad, dude. I won't let that happen again. I got you. But just in general, talking about what's coming up tomorrow with Scott Perry, I truly believe in my heart with this Scott Perry thing, it's not so much the deal that took time to come together. It's more of what tomorrow's going to be. I think tomorrow he is going to be asked some very tough questions. Now, will the media bring it the way that they brought it to Monty McNair when Monty McNair had his first availability after the Brown firing in the Fox trade? Not so sure that they'll bring it that way, but there's some very direct things that did not play out here. It doesn't appear that there was a candidate search after Monty was let go. It doesn't appear that, how do I put this? It just appears like everything would play out or should play out or has played out when Vivek Ranadive is meddling and making decisions. So for me, I'm realistic I understand that Vivek is going to be in Scott's ear. There's no doubt about it. It's who he is. But I guess the question is, coming away from tomorrow's press conference, will I feel like that Scott's going to be able to play the game to a degree with Vivek? Also, are we going to know about the coaching position tomorrow? Scott's certainly going to be asked about that during the press conference. And how quickly will that shoe fall? You got to think that shoe is going to fall rather quickly. I mean, you really have two options. You're going to hear tomorrow from Scott Perry that they are going to do an exhaustive search for the next head coach of this team, or you're going to hear we've taken the last 3-4 days, the last week, whatever they want to call it. It's going to be a day short of a week. Well, no, it'd actually be a week. We've taken the last week and spoken to the players, the guys that matter. We've talked to other candidates or their agents, people that we might want to interview. And we feel that Doug Christie is the best fit for this team going forward. I mean, those are really the two options. So we'll see what it's going to be. I mean, there's no doubt Scott Perry has a monster of a task ahead of him. You just look at the Kings payroll right now and the decisions that need to be made. They're massive. The Zach LaVine contract just changes everything. It changes the entire formula of what Scott Perry is going to do. And have they talked to Domas yet? Probably not. Those guys are taking some time off. But, you know, this is what assurances are you going to give Domantas Sabonis about the direction of this team? Sure. Ask about the point guard position. I mean, I'm not kidding. And I say this with no inside knowledge whatsoever. You easily could have spent a couple days prepping him for what he's going to be getting tomorrow. Very foreseeable. I mean, heck, even if you ask the question, how did this come together, Scott? Did the Kings, were you in talk with the Kings while Monty was still the GM? Is there anything you take from Monty's time here in Sacramento? It's either positive or negative that you apply to your formula going forward. How heavy do you rely on analytics? All these things. So tomorrow's going to be a very, very telling day. And we're going to have full coverage of it for you tomorrow. Grant's going to be back tonight, 8 o'clock. He likes that 8 o'clock time slot. Thank you all for showing up for him. Those have been some really good shows. So he's back tonight at 8. Kings Court is back tomorrow at 3 o'clock, but also Grant and I will be doing an 8 o'clock show tomorrow. In fact, I might pay attention to my socials or my X account at Ryan_in_Sacktown. I might come on a little bit early if there's demand for it after the press conference, because I'm sure we're going to want some instant reaction. But if not, the Kings Court will be here at 3 o'clock. Grant and I will be back together tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. But before all that, Grant tonight, 8 o'clock on the channel. Make sure, we would love it if you'd subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're already subscribed, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like, a retweet if you're watching on the X. So far today, we've had 372 check in at some point. So thank you very much. You can find the full library of what we do right there on YouTube, including some exclusive interviews with Grant and Ian Eagle, Scott Pollard, me, Damon Bruce, a lot of good stuff there, plus all the Kings courts, all the post games, all the halftime was with Jerry, tons of stuff to go back and look at. And as we go through this offseason, we are going to be, just as this week has been, we're going to be right here with all the coverage for the Kings as things play out. Slow times, we'll be talking other things, but always the Kings in the forefront. But the Kings Court will be here throughout the offseason, breaking things down, and Grant and I will certainly be together a ton on here as well. We'll be doing some additional specials. So, I mean, I guess I'll close it out this way. I mean, what questions are you wanting? If you had the ability to be at the press conference tomorrow, what are you asking Scott Perry? Like, what is the question that you need an answer to? Dennis says, we don't know what's going on. Can't depend on analytics when no defense is played. Analytics in stats skewed, so you can't rely on them for judging players. Makes me assistant to GM. Yeah, right. Analytics are good and bad. And the Athletic poll actually asked a question about those. Fan input on the shows all the time. Please give us fan input. You can hit me up, Rhino in Sacktown at gmail.com. Also, you can hit Grant up G Napier at gmail.com. Hit us up anytime. We would love to get your input. But again, what are you asking Scott Perry tomorrow? And do you expect to have a coach also named tomorrow by Scott Perry? I am in the same camp as Jerry. I am not sure. Here you go, Paul. What was the first when was the first conversation with Vivek? I think that's a fair question. And you got to know there's this delicate dance with the media and their credentials. Like the way this guy framed his question to Nico Harrison earlier today, all he wanted to ask was, Nico, do you think you deserve to have a job? Here's how he had to frame it. Oops.
Experience that none of us, no one's chanting for for us to lose our jobs. Why shouldn't you be fired?
So I cut it off. I'm sorry. He had about 15 seconds leading up to that, and finally he just gets to it. Why shouldn't you be fired? When was your first conversation? Scott Perry answered me this. What gave you the inspiration to write? Adam, see, look, I trust most of you enough to where I'm not pre-screening the comment, but I'm starting to realize that needs to change. Adam.
Florida, number 12 has 2 minutes for roughing.
I'm only giving you 2 minutes. I'm not putting you in the penalty box. Well played, though. Does Scott have any freedom to make decisions? Well, yeah. How are you going to frame it, though? You got to find the right way to frame it. Are you a yes man for Vivek? Yeah. How are you going to frame that? Scott, do you have the oh my God, testicular fortitude to stand up to Vivek? Well, again, it's not, can you stand up to him? Can you play the game? I think that's what every Kings fan's worst nightmare is, right? A yes man. We know Monty wasn't a yes man, but Monty ultimately fell on the sword. Couldn't take it anymore. Wes Wilcox taken off before the season's over. It's going to be interesting. Very interesting. Just the timeline. I want some answers to that. I think that's going to be something that's important. Here's the other thing. Is Vivek Ranadive going to be up there with him? I would say no. Vivek is not going to put himself in that position because then he might be asked he would. In fact, If you put Vivek up there with Scott, like you would get like no questions for Scott. It would be all Vivek. Vivek has not had an open media session this season. I know Dave sent a public invite to his show out on the X platform. And I also know Doug was trying to get him Dave was trying to get him privately as well. Sorry if I said Doug, I meant Dave, Carmichael Dave. So a lot to look forward to tomorrow. Again, this is how long the press release was. It's a long press release. This is what you needed to know. So, all right, we're out. Good conversations today. Yeah, you guys are still okay. Yeah, you guys are done.
That's terrible.
Yeah, we're gonna get out of here. I think it's about
Go
time.
Stockton!
Go Stockton! A huge thanks to Jerry Reynolds. And thank you to all of you. If you didn't get a chance to listen to everything that Jerry had to say, go catch the replay on YouTube. Join Grant tonight, 8 p.m. Be right here for you, doing an open forum show. And also, go check out The Athletic and read the player poll, the anonymous player poll. We got into the gambling side of it. Be interested to see what Grant has to say, or even if he hits anything from that, because him and I got into a pretty productive conversation about the NBA and the money coming in, and should anything else be done for the players. So all good stuff. Join Grant at 8. Thank you all again. Thank you to Jerry again. Go Kings, light the beam. We're out. Court's dismissed.